All right, guys, like the video, comment, subscribe for the sake of the algorithm. If you haven't already, I appreciate it big time. The channel's growing. I'll keep it coming. Now, today's video is sparked by an idea from the Q&A. So the Q&A is something I do every Saturday. If you guys, varying times, I'll do it at varying times each week, but I do a Q&A every Saturday. But basically somebody said they were asking, do I really think a lot of the tested lifters are natural? And one of the biggest issues, the real issue here with tested lifters is that there are indeed, I think the majority are actually clean. The majority are legit. Like, it'd be ridiculous to think, so if we say the majority is over 50%, it'd be ridiculous to think the majority aren't clean and they're all cheating, whatever. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. I like to think the best of people. Yes, the problem is there are indeed cheaters who are probably slipping through the cracks. I guarantee it. In anything, there's going to be those people. So we know there are going to be a few, and I'm sure there's at least one or a couple big names in the tested federations who are, cheating system. But the problem with that in mind is everybody just generally assumes that the top tested guys are not natural, when in fact, I think the majority of them are indeed natural. So we get into this thing where it's like, if someone's very strong and they claim tested or natural, we automatically assume they're not. And that's just that's unfair to the whole sport as a whole. And that's one of the problems. So I do think there's a lot of very strong guys out there who are indeed clean, but you get the bad apples and it ruins it for everybody. That's one of the horrible things. And there's no good answer. That's the other thing. There's no good way. USAPL, facts are facts. They do not do out of competition testing. So let's say somebody only does nationals each year. They only do USAPL Raw Nationals and they get tested at that. Well, the other 364 days of the year, they're not getting tested at all. They could cycle on and off whatever the hell they want. So this is where it becomes tough. But the USAPL doesn't have the resources. They don't have the resources to test people all year. They don't have the funds. It's just not possible. So you're never going to get to a point where it's like there's never going to be 100% credibility in tested lifting. But at the same time, the true legit guys are kind of hated on because there's the bad apples. And there's no good solution. That's the problem. Like, I can't think of a good solution personally. I think they could beef up the testing a little bit, but I can't think of a good solution to get around this problem. So it's almost like we're never going to know who's really natural and who's not, when in fact the majority of the folks doing the tested competitions are natural. So I know you see some crazy numbers out there, and let's say we see the craziest numbers from the USAPL. I would venture to guess, out of the craziest numbers in the USAPL, the top guys, about at least 75% of them are clean. So the majority are clean, but then you get the 25% or lower who are cheating the system. And that's what kind of hurts everything. That's what affects the sport, because there have been guys popped over the years. Not as many as you'd think, not as many as there probably should be, but I do think we have to get away from some of the cynicism and skepticism as far as just assuming that everyone who is strong and in a tested federation is cheating, because that's a ridiculous argument as well. It's very like a neurotic way of looking at it. The problem is just differentiating who is and who's not, and that becomes quite difficult. So everyone's always looking for a way, natty or not, how do we distinguish who is and who's not? And there's no concrete solution. There are genetic freaks. Because one of the questions asked in the Q&A as well was like, is a 700-pound deadlift possible for your average genetic lifter? And I said no. Someone with average genetics is natural. I don't think a 700-pound deadlift is possible. But I think it's possible naturally. I just think you have to have better genetics, especially some of these higher numbers. You get into the 0.0001%. So the numbers are achievable. They're just a lot less than you think. If I've coached over a 10-year period almost, if I've coached at least 1,000 guys, which it has been, it's been at least 1,000, maybe more, and I've had one guy pull 800 pounds, one guy, and he wasn't even natural, then that kind of shows you like a 700-pound natural deadlift is a pretty insane feat. So it's not possible for the average genetic lifter. but there are numbers that are even higher. So it's kind of this gray area. Like, most of them are telling the truth. Most of them are. I believe there's people out there with absurd numbers who are natural. But the problem is we'll never be able to really know who is and who's not, because there's always going to be bad apples, no matter the sport. There's always going to be bad apples. There's always going to be people working around the system, because USAPL can't test people year round. But I do think it's better we hold off on our skepticism to some degree. Don't just trash everyone who's a strong tested lifter. Don't just automatically assume they're not natural. But there are the bad apples. So I do get the frustration, because the other problem, you guys are comparing yourselves to these top 0.00001% Instagram lifters, and I just don't see them. Like, if I've coached 1,000 people and I don't see those guys, that shows you how rare they are. But social media gives the impression that they're very prevalent, they're out there. But I can tell you right now, 700-pound deadlift naturally is an absurd feat. It's very strong. I've seen more 400-pound benches natural than 700-pound deadlifts natural. But they're both very, very strong feats. So the comparison angle is what skews a lot of things, and the bad apples really ruin it, when in fact most are probably clean. So that's just kind of the point of today's video. Let me know what you guys think though in the comments. Just something that's been on my mind. And if you like this kind of content, give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe for the sake of the algorithm and growing the channel. Appreciate y'all.